Good afternoon, everybody. It feels like the start of an evening, but it is only the afternoon. I'm Sarah Tang. I'm the digital content curator for the Anthropology of Motherhood project. I'm going to give you a quick note about housekeeping before I throw it to Amy in the gallery. So we just ask that you keep yourselves muted out of consideration to all who are here. And we also just wanted to give you a note that this evening's program will be recorded. So if you don't wish to have yourself show up in this recording, you can hide your self view or change your name on there, whatever that may be. And I'm going to throw it over to Dr. Amy Bowman McElhone over in the Carlow University Art Gallery.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Sarah. And thanks, everyone, for joining us this afternoon/evening. Um, uh, I am the director of the Carlow University Art Gallery. I'm also, I wear a couple hats here, including director of the art program, and I'm an assistant professor in art history. I have the privilege of being co-curator of the Anthropology of Motherhood exhibition, Culture of Care. And Fran Flaherty is the founder of the project. Sarah is our digital content curator and maestro of the website. And Fran is co-curator of this as well. And just to give you a little background about the show and sort of what it's about. First, I want to highlight we have two amazing artists that will be leading this panel today, Jess and Tara, whose work is included in the show. Also, Olga is on the call as well, whose work is in the show too. So the idea of Anthropology of Motherhood, Culture of Care came from Fran. She can speak more eloquently about it, but it's an ongoing exhibitionary project that started 2015, I believe, and it was originally curated in the Pittsburgh Arts Festival, where Fran did a very unique and radical thing where she curated a show that centered on ideas of motherhood, lived experiences of motherhood, perspectives of motherhood, and combined it with a space of respite and a nursing space and an amenity. And although that shouldn't be radical, it is in terms of usually art spaces are very segregated in the sense that only art is there. There's certain codes of behavior that are encoded into sort of museum decorum that are very much rest on sort of a very white Western idea of how one interacts with and perceives art and values art. And Fran disrupted that by bringing in the visual culture of caregiving. Focused around mothers. As it has iterated, this version of the show was originally presented as a digitally native show with the Three Rivers Arts Festival this year due to the pandemic. But we were lucky to bring it to Carlow and actually physically install it. So that's what you see here, and that's where I'm at in the gallery at Carlow in Oakland. And the shift, I think, with this iteration that's very critical is that it expands the notion of motherhood into a bigger idea of caregiving. And it examines all these different dynamics, whether it's idea of nutrition, idea of sustenance, the ideas of and caring for people with food allergies, the kind of these basics of human life, as well as domestic labor, and the invisibility of that all, and the physicality of it all. And again, it shouldn't be radical, but it is, and I can't stress enough how underrepresented this type of work is in the art world. And that's a big part of that has to do with the art world being a very heteronormative, male, white space. And Fran's project here has really helps elevate and show the value and the beauty and the artfulness of these experiences. So with that, I'm going to throw it back to Sarah. And I also just want to thank all of the amazing artists who participated in the show. It's been a challenging year, and we're so grateful to have your work here at Carlo. Sarah?
Great. What a wonderful introduction, Amy. It's really an incredible exhibition. It's kind of a shame that it's happening during the pandemic, but I would encourage everyone, if you haven't, to take a look at the website at anthropologyofmotherhood.com. I'll post it in the chat a little bit later. And we also have a link on our website to a virtual exhibition of what is showing at Carlo University Art Gallery. So you can kind of take a closer look at each of the incredible artists and their work. I see that we do have several of our participating artists on this program this evening, so that's really exciting. So I'm going to introduce Tara and Jessica. They are both incredible mothers. They're both incredible artists. Tara Fay is an independent curator, producer, conceptual performing artist, and mama from Buffalo, New York. She serves as a board member and associate curator at Bunker Projects and is a member of the Carnegie Art Associates, as well as the Associated Artists of Pittsburgh. Her curatorial process is rooted in creating space for underrepresented Black and Brown artists. She has curated exhibitions for the August Wilson African American Cultural Center, Philosophy Project Space, and at Denison University in Granville, Ohio. Her upcoming projects include an exhibition at the Brewhouse Association and as a guest curator for Seton Hill University's Harlan Gallery. Jessica Moss is an artist, independent curator, and arts worker. She reimagines new frameworks and strategizes ways to build, maintain, and sustain Black autonomous spaces devoted to the survival, resistance, and healing of Black people. Her dedication to Black space stems from a housing redevelopment project that began in 2007 when she purchased a neglected property in a historic Black community and converted it into a creative community hub for Black artists and students. She received her bachelor's in fine art from Carnegie Mellon University, a master's in arts administration, policy, and management from the School of Art Institute of Chicago, and a master's in studies of the law from the University of Pittsburgh School of Law. Wow, these are clearly two incredible women, humans, caregivers, all the above. So before we kind of throw it to Tara and Jessica, I want to once again give a quick little disclaimer to all the participants on the call. We are recording this program for folks who can't be here to check it out at a later time. So if you do not wish to be visible, just change your name or hide your self-view on the screen. And I also want to encourage folks to feel free to unmute yourselves if you want to ask a question of Tara or Jessica to chime in. But if you're not asking a question, we do ask that you keep yourselves muted. And for those who are newcomers to using the Zoom platform, you can mute yourselves by hovering over your self view. There's a little 3-dot kind of settings button. And if you click that, you can kind of mute or unmute yourself. And I also would encourage folks to use the Zoom group chat to chime in about your thoughts, that sort of a thing. So we can all kind of join this amazing conversation in this amazing panel. So without further ado, let's throw it to Tara and Jessica and talk about rest and relaxation as mothers.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Fran. Thanks, Amy. Tara and I wanted to start our program today in a way that I think all Zoom programs should start. So we're going to pop bottles, right, Tara?
Yeah, that's the plan. If I can get mine open.
You're going to watch us struggle opening a champagne bottle. This is about resting and relaxation, and so we encourage you guys to also join us in drinking festivities. It's Friday.
And my little ones might pop in. Jess, what is Max doing?
She's screaming. You can't hear her in the background.
No, is she? Oh no, what's the matter?
Jessica, if you're having trouble, you can take the bottle and very, very carefully turn it upside down for like 10 seconds and then turn it back up. What that does is it wets the cork. And then when you got it. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I worked in fine dining.
Oh, did you really? I don't think of you as doing work like that. I always think of you as like higher level. I think of myself as doing drudgery. What?
Like, don't install the service.
Filling, but I got it open.
I didn't know you were in the service industry.
Open, but it's still. Can you grab Mama a towel? You can just get one off the bathroom door.
So Tara and I have been kicking it all day. We started a call at 10 o'clock this morning, talking about the Nina Simone Childhood Home Project in Tryon, North Carolina. I dropped off a bottle of this sparkling rosé to Tara this morning in anticipation of our discussion this evening. She's probably working on 2 other Zoom calls during this conversation.
I'm not now. I was texting my friend Alana because she's new to Clubhouse and she was telling me about all these rooms and she's like, let's go cause discourse. And I'm like, girl, I got a call.
Okay.
But Alana's a beautiful, Alana, you met her.
What is Clubhouse? I know Alana.
Oh, Clubhouse? Okay.
Yeah.
So Clubhouse is essentially like, I guess it would be considered a social media platform, but it's for all audio. So you can join different rooms and you can contribute to conversations. And at first it was like this really cool niche thing, but it's starting to grow. So I don't know. It's anything from like discussing contemporary art to like, do men still have side chicks? Like it's become varied and expansive, but Alana's new. She's like, girl, hop in these rooms. I'm
Clubhouse.
Like,
I've not heard of this.
It's cool. It's interesting.
Do you have to pay to be a part of Clubhouse?
No, you have to be invited. I'll send you an invite.
Oh, okay.
And you can also tailor the rooms so that it kind of aligns with your interests.
Okay, just a note for those of us who've jumped on the program. What are you going to say, Sarah? Join Clubhouse, but you got to get an invite.
Yeah, it's like very exclusive. Dave from Charlotte sent me an invite. I was like, oh, thanks, Dave.
Okay, wait, this is perfect. So Tara, how did we meet each other?
So we met, it was through social status, right? And I think you got my information from Dave. And did you text me or send me an email?
It wasn't Dave. It was, what's his name? The
Oh,
white.
it was Brendan, right? In Charlotte.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I can't remember if you text or email, but you asked to meet. And I was like, who is this? Like people aren't that friendly. They just want to like hang out and meet. And then I remember we met at Zeke's and you were like so beautiful. I was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't like ready to meet this person today. I didn't even think I had like dressed nice or anything. And then I remember like, I was really curious about you and I wanted to know stuff about you, but you were like really focused on like getting to know me and like what I did and my interests. And I was like, this is so nice. And then it wasn't even until later that I found out like the scale of the work you had been doing in Charlotte. And I remember, I think I like found your CV and I was like, I can't believe she's interested in what I had going on. And you were in law school at the time too, on top of it. And then I think we like walked to East Lib and you met Larry, and Larry has never forgotten you. And every time I mention Jess, he's like, oh yeah, Jess from Charlotte.
That's hilarious. Yeah, when I was an undergrad at CMU with Olga, who's on this call, I started showing work at Social Status, which is, a sneaker retail clothing store here in Pittsburgh. It's in North Carolina. Is it just, where else is it, Tara?
We're all over now. So now we're in Florida, Houston. We have a sister store in Jersey. We'll be opening in Harlem. I believe we're opening in Baltimore. But yeah, mostly the Carolinas. Like we have roots in the Carolinas, and I feel like very connected to Charlotte, especially. Like the Charlotte staff is like family.
So I was showing work at the shop here in Pittsburgh. And then when I moved to Charlotte, I had an exhibition there, and I was just always cool with James, who's the owner and founder of Social Status. And I remember I was like, it was like 2016, and I was installing some work. And Brandon, who was the manager of the Charlotte store, was like, "You got to know Tara. Pittsburgh, you got to know Tara." And I was like, "Who is this Tara?" He was like, "I'm going to send you her phone number right now." He was like, "Do not go to Pittsburgh and not connect with her." And I was like, "Wow, okay, let me make this a priority." And Tara, I think it speaks to the support and grace that exists within our friendship, because we're such mirrors. I felt the same way about you. And every time we have an opportunity to engage with each other, I love hearing about like the diversity of projects that you're working on, because it's your ability to activate high and low, and to always involve such a large community is something that I've always been inspired about by you. You can wear sneakers to black tie affairs and people don't look twice at it. I think that is really a unique skill. That's a skill for sure. And I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to be aligned with you. I think since then we've done a couple of projects together.
Yeah, we've
You
tried to like involve each other in everything that we're doing. I think I've just been trying to be like sensitive to the fact that like Max is still pretty new and fresh, and I don't want to overwhelm you. But I feel like you're just so like resilient, and you're always wearing multiple hats that you could handle like most things. And especially the way like your practice now engages motherhood.
Thank you. Yeah, Max is my daughter.
Yeah, sorry everybody. I'm just so used to like Max and baby Max. That's Jessica's beautiful daughter.
Thank you. She's 13 months now. And I feel, in the same as your creative practice, I feel very inspired by seeing you mother and care for Neon and Maddie, who are 5 and 10 now. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, Maddie will be 10, but it's next month. It's actually like less than a week after Christmas. Her birthday is January 3rd. So like we're there as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, tangentially, does Maddie get both Christmas presents and birthday presents?
Maddie is such an amazingly sensitive and accommodating and considerate person. So like we talked about Christmas, and she understands now that like Santa's not real. So we've been able to have conversations about that. And I was really struggling with like buying gifts for her, because she's like really interested in like kawaii stuff and like sort of Japanese aesthetics. And she's like, I want cool like kawaii clothes, and I want like wigs and accessories. And I think it's beautiful that like I can nurture and like allow her to explore those interests. But a lot of stuff doesn't, like age wise, it just doesn't work. Like she's sending me links to like adult clothes and stuff. I'm like, you're only 9, like you still have a little baby body. So like I'm struggling, like I don't know what to get you. And she's like, well, Mom, I don't want you to like stress out or spend too much. And my birthday's like right after Christmas anyway. And I'm just like, oh, like the consideration that she has for me, like her heart is just so pure and so sweet. Like I'm so grateful to have her.
Yeah, but that doesn't come out of nowhere. You made them like that.
I feel like that, but Maddie always has had like
Exactly.
this heightened sensitivity that like I don't have. Like I don't think I'm as kind as my child. I think I can be, but like for her, it's like all she knows is kindness and like loving people. It's beautiful.
Take credit for it. That's all you. That's you. I think, as Olga said, it's totally a testament to your mothering. They're a lot of it, nature nurture. They're not just born like that, like there has to be skills, like these concepts become ingrained in them. And a lot of it, I think, is what they see, and trying to emulate that. So just take that, receive.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was waiting for the receive.
I'll take it.
So what are you up to these days, Tara? I know you're doing so much. What's on your docket?
So I have a show that opens next month through Brew House, and things are finally coming together. It was getting down to the wire, but I'm excited to do a show. I'm working with a lot of emerging artists and also some more established artists. Sharon Norwood, who was an exhibiting artist at the show at Denison University that you were in. And Nakia, who's also in the Sybil Shrine cohort. She agreed to be in my show. And I was like such a fan of hers. And to even be on a call with her, I was like, I don't know what to say. Like, this is so cool. And she's like so cool. And like, she's a mom too. And so yeah, just to give like more emerging artists, and some of these artists haven't even been in exhibitions before, the opportunity to showcase with like such amazing, like kind of mid-career artists. Like, I'm very grateful and excited for that, and to see everything start to come together. So I mean, that's like my main focus right now.
What's the show at Brewhouse about?
So it's centered on Black hair culture, but with a lot of emphasis on like viewing it through a contemporary lens. And the title is Roots Run Deep, a contemporary survey of African American hair culture. I wanted very badly to like incorporate Frank Ocean in the title, and I was able to do that. That was a line on Blonde from Future Free. So I was able to get it in there. You wouldn't know like just to hear it, but yeah.
So are you going to play this song during the exhibition?
Ideally, I want to like tell everybody like, by the way, this is a Frank Ocean line.
You're so good at titling Tara, you came up with Black Blooded. That was you.
I feel like that was both of us though.
That was you 100%. I put this exhibition together in 2018 in Charlotte, North Carolina, and had like 50 Black artists from all over the world, all different media. There were 70 pieces in this 200 square foot gallery. It was crazy.
Amazing.
And Tara, you named that. Thank you. That's brilliant. I appreciate you. Like, to this day, I'm like, whenever anybody says anything about Black Blooded, I'm like, yo, Tara Faye named this exhibition.
It was an amazing
That name goes
exhibition. And that was, I think, my first time going to Charlotte, like with Sean and the girls. And that was like a fun trip. And they were so excited to like meet you and be there.
And you stayed in the roll-up.
Yes.
Black Blooded. Doesn't that go hard, Fran? It was good. The roll-up is this space that I have in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's an artist in residency program that provides time, space, and money for Black contemporary artists. It's a duplex that has a 2-car garage, and whenever the garage is rolled up, that's the symbol for the community to come and participate in whatever event or program is happening in the space. And it also acts as affordable housing for Black artists whenever the residency is dark. And so any way that it can be activated, Lauren Beecham, who is Braddock Carnegie Library and also a part of Sybil Shrine, which we'll get into in a second, stayed there when she went for a family reunion a couple of weeks ago. Tara was able to stay there during this exhibition being up. It's just, you know, if y'all find yourselves in Charlotte and you are a Black contemporary artist, the space is open to you. So please do so. Yeah, what do you think about that, Tara? Your time in the space?
I loved it. And we got to hang out with Huxley, which the girls loved.
That's the dog.
Yeah. That was their favorite part of the trip, was being with Huxley.
That's so sweet.
But it was beautiful, and to be able to take them and for them to see such a powerful exhibition, it was a great experience.
Okay, so you just mentioned Neon, affectionately known as Nini and Maddie, who are your 2 daughters. We have a question in the chat from TJ, who says, and this will just launch here, how do you think motherhood has impacted your creativity and artistic practice? Tara, I'll let you take that.
I think before I was a mother, I wasn't really motivated in a lot of ways. Like, you know, I kind of worked to make enough money to do like the bare minimum, right? But then like, especially having Maddie, it just like pushed me to want to do more. And I remember like thinking around that time, like motherhood is so beautiful. And like, I truly believe that God gives you exactly what you can handle. And when I had Maddie, I was very much a single mom. I was like living at home. I didn't really have a lot of support outside of like my immediate family and my sister. But Maddie was such an incredibly calm child all the time. I never had nights where I was like up all night with her screaming. Some days we would just sleep all day together. Like she was just accommodating in every capacity, like always chill, always super relaxed. And like that was what I needed in my life, because without having the level of support I have now, I needed like a calm, easygoing baby. And my relationship with her and my introduction to motherhood through her just made me want to like put beautiful things into the universe. So I started to like try to do more like with my interests. And I remember that was around the time like I had enrolled in school for fashion, because I was like always interested in fashion. And I figured like retail management was a good direction to go. And then I wound up working for social status, and was able to like kind of refocus my interests, because James is a big advocate for artists and also community engagement. So we would do like monthly art showcases, and I wound up taking over that and connected with a lot of great artists in Pittsburgh, and realized like I have this platform I can use to showcase their work. It's free of charge. They don't have to put anything into it. So that was a great opportunity, and that's kind of what got me into curation initially. And then when I had Neon, it made me just want to like go harder and do more. And I realized the benefits of like having kids that have access to art, and like it just enriches their growth so much. And it's like really important in our house. Like they're always drawing, they're always doing something artistic. So yeah, I think more than anything else, they motivated me, and I probably wouldn't be doing anything that I'm doing if I had not had children.
So in the exhibition, there's a piece that I want to share with the team who's on this call today. And everybody who's on this call is friends. So I want to put that out there. This is cool that we're able to have these kinds of dialogues. Okay, so Tara, this is the piece that you have in Anthropology of Motherhood. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in deities?
Yeah, so I think mothering, and especially like with Black motherhood, like we function as creators, and what we're creating is divine. And like my children are divine, and I felt more connected to my womanhood like once I became a mother. And I wanted to like convey that through a piece. And I also wanted to make work with my babies, because like they knew I was an artist, but they didn't really understand what it meant, weren't really interested in any of the work I had done previously, had even told me like, Mom, we do not care about this. So I had this idea of like sort of a photo that I wanted to stage. And the day we took it, my sister and I were like struggling trying to use this camera. The girls were like not in the mood. Like I feel like the way it's staged, like Maddie looks restful and serious, but at that point she was really just fed up, because they had been posing for this photo for so long and in so many ways. But they were troopers. And eventually we got it done. And I loved how it turned out. I loved the connection to them, like through making work with them. And altogether, it was a beautiful experience. And I appreciate them for dealing with it.
So this is Neon on the left in the yellow,
Yeah.
and Maddie on the right in the green. Maddie's holding a peacock feather. I think Neon is as well.
Yeah.
A bouquet of yellow flowers on the center of a black table, and right above is a clock, an all-white clock. Tara standing to the right of Maddie with a white blouse and a black skirt on, with her arms crossed, but one arm holding an orange. Her eyes are closed, and behind her is a cabinet that has a plant hanging off the edge of it. Tara, can you tell us about all the symbolism that's involved in this photograph?
So I share a sign with Hera, the goddess of motherhood and fertility. And I have a sleeve piece that's actually Hera depicted with the pomegranate and the peacock feathers. And Hera represents motherhood and fertility. And I got this piece started, and shortly after I got it started, I became pregnant with Neon. So I was like, wow, this was like a really interesting turn of events, because like Neon wasn't planned for, but it felt as though there was some meaning behind that. And I wanted to do something that represented imagery of Ocean, who also represents fertility and beauty and motherhood in African culture. So the yellow and the green represent Ocean. The peacock feathers for Hera, and the orange for Ocean also, and also represents like an offering that I'm giving to my girls. I know Jessica and I spoke earlier about how like children are autonomous people. And I think to fill them up, I have to continue to give to them, and I have to continue to offer to them. So yeah, that was where a lot of that symbolism came from. And then the clock was really fitting. I thought about not including the clock, but the concept of time, especially being like a temporary thing, I think it's important to note. Like we always talk about death because the girls are just like, we don't ever want to die. We don't want you to die. But that's very much a part of life that I have prepared them for. And they know like, you know, I want to be cremated and all that. So like we talk about it a lot, and we do like cemetery visits because I don't ever want it to be something that they're afraid of. And I don't want them to like think of it as like the scary thing. And I tell them like, you know, when I'm gone, I'll just be asleep, like dreaming about you.
I think that was our last time kicking it in quarantine, as we had a cemetery take with
Yeah.
kids, and Max was not having it that
I
day.
know, I felt so bad.
We were going through the cemetery and my baby was screaming like how she is now, which y'all can all hear in the background. She was not having it, and it was so precious because Neon and Maddie were both like trying to, you know, like just how can we support, trying to console her. Like they were both taking turns, like trying to hold her and calm down. Max, I don't know. I think it was like a teething situation. I don't know. She
Oh yeah, she was teething. We found out after, and I felt so much better.
it was not you. It was not the girl. She was just, you know, growing those two fronts in a way that she just needed, you know, to express herself vocally. Here she is.
I can hear her now.
Yeah, I know. She just wants to be a part of it. Thank you for sharing this piece, Tara. I appreciate it. And you know, I want big energy for such a little body, right, Wilka? I also want to talk, you know, in this piece you reference mother goddesses and supreme beings. And we are both a part of Sybil Shrine. Sybil Shrine is an artist residency program that's here in Pittsburgh that was started by artist Alicia Wormsley that specifically supports Black creative mothers. And it is amazing to have the opportunity to work with Alicia and Naomi Chambers on this type of work, but also to be able to support Black creative mothers like Tara and Olivia, who are on this call. Tara, tell me about Sybil Shrine. How do you feel about this?
I've loved the experience. I know for a lot of the weekly calls, I wasn't able to be as present as like I wanted to be. But to be a part of a cohort of like very supportive women, like it was nothing but love and support on all of those calls. It was a really beautiful experience. It definitely made me feel as though I'm not alone as far as trying to balance being an artist and being a mother. It's great to have this network of people that, you know, we can all stay in contact. We all are like very supportive of one another. So it's been an amazing experience, and I'm grateful for the work that Alicia and Jessica and Naomi have done. Naomi, I wish she was here, but Naomi, like we've been together on each other's like mothering journeys. Like I remember I was one of the first people to find out that Naomi was pregnant both times. I knew before anyone else, and it happened again with her second baby. But yeah, watching her become a mother has been a beautiful experience, and seeing how she balances mothering and being an artist, it's just great. Like I'm very grateful for Sybil Shrine and what it provides for Black mommies.
So we did honorariums for just being a part of the group. Like if you are a part of Sybil Shrine, here's a check immediately. And in addition to that, if you led a workshop or a class through our virtual programming, you were also supported with another check. And I think a huge part of the residency is not only to provide this community, especially during quarantine time, but also what are ways that we can economically support each other. I think something that I learned through it is that every Black mom who is a part of Sybil Shrine has some kind of business or sells something. You know, it like we created this whole ecosystem in a way that I just really didn't know. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know it existed to this scale, you know, and being able to support each other and kind of keeping that money within our community was just really a beautiful thing. Olivia, I know you're on the call. Olivia had a baby during our cohort, which was amazing. Like we got to see her pregnant, and then we got to see the baby being born, not being born, but you know, like the resulting baby. Olivia, there's the baby. Olivia, can I ask you to say some stuff about Sybil Shrine?
Yeah, I actually remember I went into labor during our Sunday meeting, and I was like, I'm gonna turn off my camera, guys. No, it was this is Nalo. It was so beautiful. I think just understanding and seeing how deep and wide mothering is and can be, and just holding space for each other week over week, especially in this time, was so beautiful. And yeah, I think there's something very sacred about creating and holding that space, and letting, there wasn't, how do I explain this? Time was flexible, which was really nice. And there's so much understanding and grace and graciousness. Yeah, just meeting each other where we're at and hearing each other out and creating beautiful space. And I don't know, I'm really grateful for that. I feel like I came into my motherhood because you all were there. And yeah, I don't know.
I agree 100%, Olivia. It was such a beautiful thing to be able to hey, don't cry. Look, it's Olivia.
What does it matter?
Don't cry. Look at all your friends who are here. Okay. I'm going to go on mute for a second. Tara, help me out.
Oh, poor baby.
So, hello everyone, I'm Fran Flaherty. I know I was gonna kind of take a step back here, but this is, that sound is beautiful of the child crying, and with Jessica, this is exactly what I was hoping anthropology of motherhood would be, that we could all be together with our children in whatever state they are, just take them as who they are when they are at the moment, and it's okay, and then we can all still be here and still hold space for everyone. So hi Max, I hope Max is okay now, so I'm just gonna mute myself again.
Y'all, Fran was when I was at TMU with Olga, Fran and I became really close because I was studying painting, drawing, and printmaking, and she managed the printmaking studio. And I spent a lot of time in there, and I'm really grateful for her support, but also her friendship. And so to be able to be included in this project that Fran has put together, I feel deeply honored. And then to be able to be exhibiting work alongside so many artists that I really appreciate and admire, I also am immensely grateful. So thank you, Amy and Fran, for creating space for us to do these types of things and show this type of work.
Yeah, thank you so much. I created that piece specifically for this show. And I was really hoping, I was I hope they like it, because I had this idea and I was I didn't know when I would ever be able to exhibit it. And then I saw Anthropology of Motherhood, the open call on Facebook. I was there's no way. This show is so perfect. And it was in alignment with this idea that I had. It was amazing timing. It was very serendipitous.
Okay, one of the things that I also want to talk about, kind of shifting gears, is how fine you are, Tara. Fine.
I don't feel we've all just been hanging in there during quarantine, you know?
Tara, you're a MILF.
Thank you, as are you. I'm a reflection of you. I'll never forget the first time you said that to me.
Wait, have I said this before?
Yes, that's why I always said it. I thought you knew. I like got it from you, but it's such a beautiful compliment and it like touches people so much. Like I had this random girl DM me on Instagram and she's like, I think you're so dope. I love seeing your posts. I was like, I'm a reflection of you. She's like, I'm over here crying. I was like, oh, now I'm going to cry. It's like such a beautiful way to just like mirror feelings.
It's true. It's true. Okay, so you have, I was kind of touching on this high and low thing from before because you have this like really incredible fine art practice, but you're also selfie god on Instagram. I like I am prepared right now with my screen share to show some of these, or actually let me stop sharing real quick so I can get this right. But Tara, like these works of yours that are on, here we go, that are on Instagram. Look, check this out. Tara, like you need to have an exhibition that is, look, you too sexy. That is all of these, I mean, and the way that you use this platform to share your life, to share your experience with motherhood, to share your body, like your grace, your art is just like, look, how do we go from this damn to this like such a sweet moment, like it is such a spectrum. And I think, Blackness and Black women are, here's a piece alluding to your future exhibition at Brew House that you were just describing, you giving lectures at CMOA while you're also repping sneakers at Social Status, like this is such a reflection of the diversity that exists within Black women and Black womanhood, that I feel like this, this is art. This is, I'm proud to be able to witness this, yeah, look, here's the another version of the piece that's in the exhibition. Talk to me about your social media presence.
I struggled in the past with social media because there's this idea that like, especially women, you have to represent yourself a certain way if you're going to be taken seriously, or like your social media has to be super curated. And there's no way I could ever curate mine the way other people have because I have tons and tons and tons of images. And that's because like, and I've gone through all of my images and like every post is a memory. Like I have pictures of when my oldest daughter was an infant. Like I have pictures of like trips from 10 years ago. My whole pregnancy with Neon, I documented. And these are images that like, I will never care enough about curating my feed to like get rid of any of those pictures because they all mean something to me and they all evoke a memory. And I don't think Black women should have to curate our social media. I think our social media should represent exactly who we are. And I've met so many dope Black women that will DM me and be like, oh, you like anime? I love anime. I'm like, girl, I had no idea you need to be posting about your anime, like, but I feel like women feel pressure to have to represent ourselves a certain way. And it's like, no, and like not every picture I post I think is the most flattering, but I mean, I post things because sharing my life is really important. And especially like my struggles with mental health, like some of those posts were really difficult to make, but the responses I got and the ways I was able to like give people advice, like I'm very, very grateful that I was able to do that. And that me being, open and candid, which I don't think is particularly brave. I think that there are certain stigmas attached to mental health that make people hesitant to share, and there shouldn't be. Like if you broke your leg, you wouldn't be ashamed to post like, oh, I broke my leg. So you shouldn't be ashamed to post that like you're struggling with your mental health. It all ties in. Like we need to regard our minds the same way we regard our bodies. But yeah, I have no shame in sharing things like that. And if I'm able to like help others through posts like that, then like I'm all for it.
I really appreciate that. And I think that openness, yeah, right? Like that openness, that willing to express yourself, that's so important because so often we are silenced or reprimanded for being ourselves. And I feel like you authentically show up as yourself all the time. And I'm so grateful for that. So thank you for just being yourself, Tara.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so we also talked a little bit about Neon and Maddie, and y'all heard Max. I want to talk a little bit about how what it means to involve our kids in our work. You know, for example, in that photograph that you showed, Maddie and Neon are in it. Maddie and Neon are present throughout your social media presence. And I wonder, with having, you know, I've taken this stance, conversely, where Max is not present in my internet at all. She never shows up. I highlight her via the Lioness Collective, which Olga is the founder of, or through Sybil Shrine. But I do not show her face, or really speak about her, because I feel like I want to be able to give her autonomy when she gets older to decide how she's reflected in this world. And I think so much, you know, like as kids kind of grow up, and then see what has been out there, you know, they might not have as much control. And so I wonder how you, because your kids are older, you know, Max is 13 months, Maddie's 10. I wonder how you kind of navigate this world of showing your kids and not showing your kids. Like, where do you draw the line on that? What do you think?
With Maddie, my pregnancy was a lot different, so I didn't really show that much. I think like people I met in person were like surprised that I was pregnant. So there was like a little more privacy around that time. But with Neon, I was in such a like happy, healthy relationship that I was excited to share everything, like share updates the further along I got, did like a gender reveal, all of that. So it was a much different experience. But as they get older and autonomy becomes a thing, I definitely give them more agency over their posts. Like my 9-year-old, she's like exploring gender identity. So at one point she was identifying as non-binary, and then at one point she was identifying as lesbian. And I used to like post our conversations. And then actually Neon's father was kind of like, hey, is Maddie okay with you posting this? And I was like, you know what? I don't know. And I had a conversation with Madison, and she was kind of like, no, I don't want people to know. So that was a thing. And like, it kind of hurt because I love sharing those parts of her, and like having a child that can explore her identity in that way and understands like that gender is a spectrum, and just like is able to like share these things with me. Like at 9 years old, it was such a beautiful moment that I wanted to share, but I have to respect her. And that was hard. Like sometimes it's harder. Like sometimes I'll like sneak a cute picture and I'm like, oh, I want to post this. And she's like, no. And I think she's influenced my youngest, because like the other day on my Instagram stories, I posted my youngest sleeping, and like I showed it to her and she's like, you're not supposed to post me on Instagram. I'm mad at you. And I was like, oh man. So just being more intentional about knowing what they're comfortable with, asking permission to share things, asking permission to like tell other people things about them. But also like with Maddie in particular, like I wanted her to know that she wasn't alone, and there are a lot of other kids her age exploring gender identity. But I mean, I think she has a good group of friends, and she's like in a bunch of queer gamer groups through like Roblox and stuff. So she has a little community, and I think she's doing okay. And like I'm probably more worried than I should be, and I need to just like let her have her space and kind of keep that separate from social media as much as possible, especially now, because this was something relatively recent. I think like during COVID, she kind of cracked down and was like, listen, I don't want you posting stuff. I was like, okay.
I love that. I love witnessing that. And I think it's such a model, that I really hope to emulate for Max. We were talking before the phone call. So Max's dad is Jewish, and we just had a naming ceremony, which is like a traditional Jewish celebration where the child is given a Hebrew name in case she wants to have like a bat mitzvah or do any kind of other cultural celebration. So Max is Lil Uzi. And when we were celebrating my
I'm confused.
Oh,
If you
yes.
guys, these
Let's hear it.
groups.
Kenneth, did you ask a question? Oh, he muted again. Okay, so maybe not. But you're welcome.
I'm sorry. I was trying to put it in the chat, but I completely did not understand the invitation I got. I thought this was about Black mothers. I thought this was gonna be more like a information about African American families. I didn't know it was gonna be like interracial and gay, so I completely got the wrong. Someone must have if he obviously did not know me to send me this, so I'm gonna leave. But
Oh,
I
thanks for
completely
coming.
misunderstood this. Sorry.
No worries. You know, we believe in intersectionality, and we're grateful for your participation today. But please don't feel like you have to stay.
Well, I think what should happen though, because as a real African American, I just am tired of our community be hijacked by these different ideologies that don't reflect us. Like the last 20 years, what I'm seeing is that everyone's using our words and they're interjecting their own agendas. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if you go to Africa, what you're saying is nothing I've heard from legit people who share our values. But I think you just need to come up with some new words so people don't misinterpret who your group is and things that you guys believe were traditional African American families.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. I apologize for the miscommunication there with you. And we will, yes,
I already
Jessica.
cut him out. It's cool. I was real quick to just click remove for that because this is not a space for that, you know?
Yeah.
Oh.
Lord.
Yeah.
But Tara, let's talk about it because we got 30 minutes to wrap this up. I mean, you know, you are a person of multiple races. We both have children that are of different races than we are. Let's talk. Too bad Kenneth isn't here so he could fill his speech.
I know.
No tap for me. I couldn't handle it. I had to just remove.
Yeah.
But like, let's talk about, Tara, what is it like raising an interracial child in today's world? Can we not, TJ?
It's been an experience, and through Maddie sort of exploring her identity, I've been able to like unpack my own, and we have a lot of really difficult conversations about privilege, like me being half white and like my proximity to whiteness. It's a thing that I have to acknowledge and be accountable for, and the ways in which, you know, I take up space, that's a thing. But it really helps me to explain things to her by putting myself in the narrative so that she knows that that she's not alone. So that helps her understand things a lot better, because I mean, the way it is, if you're white passing, then you're white. So like I have had to reconcile with the idea that like I do in fact have a white child who may choose to identify differently, but it is what it is. And I actually did explore that through an art piece, because I remember when Halle Berry had her daughter, she talked about how she applies to the 1 drop rule, and she's like 1 drop of black and you're black and that's it. But like we have to talk about the ways in which the 1 drop rule was very problematic, and it was a way to keep enslaved people from having any rights, even, you know, when they became free. Like that's a big problem. So I did a piece exploring the 1 drop theory, and I used blood and milk, and we dipped the blood in the milk to see like how much blood it would take to start to dilute the whiteness. And yeah, so just being able to do things like that through, you know, having like ultimately a white child, it's been a thing. And then in contrast, my youngest daughter, her father is black, and she looks black. She's only a quarter white, whereas Maddie is only a quarter black. So it's been a lot of moments where like we have to teach Maddie like, your job is going to be your sister's protector, because people are going to treat her differently, which she doesn't understand. She's like, why? Neon's so cute. And they both want hair like each other. And Nini's like, I want a fro. And then Nini's like, I want my hair to be straight. I'm like, no, you guys have to be happy with how you look. But yeah, it's been interesting. And I think Maddie just has to be intentional, which she will learn over time, and position herself as an ally and an advocate, and also somebody that doesn't take up too much space. But she's already such a great kid. I think she will get there. She just struggles with, you know, she wants to look black. And the way she talks about darker skinned people is beautiful. Like we were watching something and she's like, dark skinned people are just like so beautiful. Like their skin just glows. And she's like, it's not fair that I don't look like that. And I'm like, well, Maddie, you have to be okay with how you look. And yes, like speak that loudly about like how beautiful dark skinned people are, and like, you know, how that needs to be acknowledged. And I don't know, it's hard. And like, I feel for her, because like, I know she wants to look and identify one way, and how she looks is the exact opposite, but she also needs to like love herself and just move in the right way.
Truly. identity discussions are so hard, especially with young people. And I really appreciate how, like, watching you navigate these discussions with your children, especially because they look so different, and I'm sure that there are moments where you really want to find ways to uplift Nini, but you have to balance that with uplifting Maddie, and it seems to be like such, it could be really treacherous waters. And so I'm really grateful in witnessing how you approach these things. Kenneth is not alone. I think a lot of people are mad. They mad.
They're mad about like gender identity too. And it's like, Black people are a monolith. Like, there were gays in Africa. Like, come on.
And also, I think a lot about discussions of race is how you choose to identify and how people perceive you. Like, I got an Asian dad. Am I any less Black? No, I don't think that I move through the world as a Black woman. That's how, this is how I move. And I'm going to raise my daughter to move in a very similar way. Her grandma on the paternal side came to the house before she was born, and she was like, I've got all these porcelain dolls and I want to, they came from my great grandmother. And I'm so excited to pass them down to Max, who's their only grandchild. My mom's got 6 grandkids. She don't give a fuck about Max. Just but they're so excited, And so I was like, okay. And I'm looking through all these porcelain dolls, and they're all blonde and blue eyes. And then there was one Asian one with like a kimono and a fan, wearing, wooden slippers. And I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you I'll express gratitude. But also maybe we should get her some like Black dolls and some Jewish dolls, because this is a part of her too. And I'm like interested in demonstrating this part of her culture. And his mom was like, and what did Jewish dolls look like? And I was like, I don't know, maybe it has a yarmulke on it. And she's like, not all Jewish people wear yarmulkes. And I'm like, not all Asians wear kimonos. Like, what are we talking about right now? Like what are we even really talking about right now? And so I think if this conversation finds itself in our lives in multiple perspectives, and it's always just going to be something that we have to deal with and move through. Even now, like it's ignorance, which I acknowledge, but there's comments about like her lack of melanin, like, oh, well, she's not really Black because she's light skinned. It's like, what? And so you have to navigate this through people who don't know you as well as people who do know you. Like, these are my partner's parents, and so I'm grateful that Kenneth introduced this as a part of our discussion, because I think it's relevant and something that we could use this as an opportunity to share. But I don't think that in any way we should let that hotepness bring us down. And so in these next,
Sounded like a hotep.
girl. In these next 30 minutes, Amy is in the gallery, which is unique. We haven't had it. We don't get to go there because of COVID in the way that we can. And so Amy has the ability to show our works up close. So Amy, would you mind showing Tara's piece in this space and then showing the piece that I can?
I would love to. Hold on.
She's working on tech right now.
Too much tech. I've got yes, I don't know where to look or what audio to yeah, give me a second to get situated, and then I'll I guess I don't know if I can screen share. Sarah, you might have to make my phone co-host because I'm on here double time. So give me 1 second. Keep vamping. Yes, and Tara.
In the interim, Kate is here with baby Veda. They just popped up on the screen. Hey, Kate. Hey, Veda. Look at this cutie. She's also interracial. Kate, do you?
Hey, sorry. We've been hiding the whole time.
Tell us about
That
your
guy was funny.
interracial experience.
What is my? I can't hear. What'd you say?
Tell us about your what is your experience like raising an interracial baby in these worlds?
Well, we've been home for most of it.
Fair.
So,
I
can't hear anything.
It's okay.
Does it
I mean,
work?
I think it's just a challenge, right, to like navigate these things. But I'm grateful for you being here, Kate, and thank you for sharing your baby.
Yeah,
It's in the interim while Amy got things set up. All right, Amy, you ready to take over?
Yes.
Okay. Can you guys see that?
All right. All right. So here is Tara's work in the gallery space. And I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to chime in when we were talking about this work. I had Carlo's a ghost town right now, but there was somebody who was here that was informing me of some good news about a donation that might go towards another student-run art space at Carlo, which is fantastic. But I just wanted to say that Tara's work, I remember when we were going through the submissions, Fran and I, and Tara's work in particular stuck out to me for all of the reasons I think that Jess and Tara discussed, which was this, and Jess said this at the beginning of the talk, is the way in which Tara activates high and low. I think is really compelling, and the ways in which we have this like contemporary allegory, and there's like big ideas going on here, but it's also super intimate and super tied into the now and lived experience with, again, all of these sort of mythological allusions. I think also, and then there's also like a lot of playing with art history and the symbolism and the persistence of certain narratives and myths and ideas that that come from kind of Greek mythology, but then also because there's so much sort of syncretic overlap between different cultures and ancient religions, that it really, I think, presents a really complex, rich text of an image that Tara's presenting here. And I also have a question for Tara and Jess, if it's okay, because I was really interested, this is like from a curator's perspective, when you're talking about the different spaces that you're showing works and you're curating from the, and I had my little paper that had all the places, but Brew House, the space in Charlotte, and then what's the name of the shoe space? So yeah, social space. What I wanted to ask you about that, because all of these spaces and the way that you talked about them as not just being spaces for art, right? Like this gallery, but a spaces that cultivate community and support it, have all of these different, really multivalent, like functions that are very intentional. And I was wondering if you could sort of, and right off the bat, you listed like 3 of these types of spaces. And I was wondering if you could maybe speak to that a little bit, and perhaps its significance too for Black communities and art communities as well.
I mean, I don't want to speak for Jessica, but I think both of us are all about access. Access is really important to me. And people who ordinarily like wouldn't go to art museums, can't afford to go to art museums, wouldn't go to a gallery, like they still deserve to see nice things. They deserve to have access to beautiful things. They deserve to regard art as something that like you can make a career out of. And I know so many of us, the way we were brought up, it was like to not pursue things like art. Like we needed to, go to college, find real jobs. And like, I don't believe in that. So yeah, especially like through the shows that I curate, I want them all to be accessible. I want to like write in ways that people can understand. I don't want to be like too academic. And I think Jessica functions in the same way. And I really relate to her in that regard. Like, regardless of how all of her accolades, like all of her schooling, she's never positioned herself as a person that's inaccessible or as a person that like can't speak to the culture. Like she is the culture. She's creating the culture. So yeah, I think we're both very intentional about that.
Definitely. And to Tara's point about creating, I think so much of my work and Tara's, I feel like I can say this, is about if, what does it mean to think about decolonizing colonist spaces. You know, museums aren't for us, you know, like there's so many spaces that have never been welcoming to us, have never made space for us. So it kind of seems at some point just like inherently pointless to think about trying to make spaces that have never been for us. Instead, I think the move is how can we make our own spaces, you know, like by us, for us. What does it mean to think about creating something for Black artists that is made entirely by Black artists? I really believe that. And so I try to really create spaces that uplift, support, and really acknowledge Black people who are already doing this work. You know, it's not even about necessarily inserting Black people into museums. I think we make our own museums, you know. I think we provide our own collections. I think we provide platforms and structures that are just for us, and that's, you know, the work of the Roll Up, the project in Charlotte. That's the work of Sybil Shrine here in Pittsburgh. I think as many ways as we can provide our own spaces. Tara mentioned that show in Denison, Ohio, which was at a university. Tara, can you talk a little bit about that show while I pull this up? I want to show the image from that show.
Yeah, I co-curated the show with Justin Clemson, who I knew back when he was still living in Pittsburgh, and he went on to teach at Denison University, and like we always kept in touch. And he's like, I have this idea for a show. I would love for you to work with me to curate it. And like from jump, he was like, I want this to be like a very Black show. Like we are creating and cultivating a Black space. And Granville, Ohio, where Denison is, it's very white, like very kind of Republican. So being there and like seeing the space, it was kind of daunting. It was like, are people going to come to this? Are we like okay to do this here? But yeah, that's how that came about. And we had a lot of like really incredible artists. Alicia Wormsley was a part of the show. So was Jessica. I was able to like bring in some Pittsburgh artists. So that was great. Corinne Jasmine. I think that was it as far as Pittsburgh artists. But yeah, to be able to like connect with artists who were like very emerging and showing them next to more established artists like Alicia, Sharon Norwood. I'm trying to remember who else.
Vasquez.
Yes, Luis Vasquez LaRoche. He was a VCU MFA student who has since moved back to Trinidad, but he is making really compelling performance and conceptual work around his Caribbean and Black identity, really nuanced work. I was so grateful to connect with him and all the other artists. So it was a really stellar show. And I was like, this is how all shows, you know, should be.
I created this space where I asked Tara to send me the floor plans of the exhibition, and I carved out a space based on the floor plans that was specifically deemed a Black autonomous space. The ask was that non-Black people actually install the work. And it was within the school of thought where there was a series of directions that were provided of how to install the work. All of the materials were provided. It explained exactly where to install the work in the space. And my curiosity is how people would respect this space that was deemed Black only, you know, especially upon openings or exhibitions when there is quite a lot of people in the space. When you see something that is specifically deemed not for you, is it an opportunity for you to respect that, or is an instance where you feel like, who's watching me, and maybe I put my foot in the water a little bit? And so that's very similar to this work that Amy is showing right now. That's a part of the Anthropology of Motherhood exhibition. This is a sewing chair because when Max was first born, I was spending a lot of time sewing, and I made this sculpture that was exhibited in a previous exhibition where I turned her drawings into soft sculptures. And so when I was no longer nursing as much as I was and had the ability to use my hands freely in a way that I couldn't anymore, I started thinking, you know, my practice changed significantly. And I found myself saying things to Max when she became a little bit more autonomous, you know, like, could it be her walking through the space and I'd be like, get your balance, or take your time, these things that I was saying to her. were things that I needed to hear myself. They were things that I would say them and I'd be like, yeah, Jess, like get your balance. And so I installed this, the chair in the corner of the exhibition, because I think also a lot about disciplining our children and what that means. And I spent so much time in the corner. That was the first thing Miriam would say to me, go sit in the corner. And so I think a lot about how now that almost becomes a privilege, right? Like, let somebody tell me to go sit in the corner for a second. I'm like, yes, thank you. Let me take this moment to myself to just reflect on what it is. And so I transcribed on the wall, get your balance, as a way to reflect on this statement that I kept finding myself saying to my daughter. And so this piece is called things that I say to my daughter that I need to remind myself. And I also invite moms who come into the gallery to actually activate the chair. To Tara's point about accessibility, I don't believe that these things should just be on walls that can't be touched. So like, sit in the chair, take a break, look out the window, take a second, think about what it means to get your balance. I really encourage that.
We have two very interesting questions that I think need to be answered. One of them is from Juana Williams, and it's for Tara, and it says, I'm curious if creating this image with his deities within an interior space, possibly a kitchen, which is actually your own kitchen. And when we were at tech rehearsal today, we actually saw the space that you created this image in, and it was such a privilege to be able to see part of the art. I was just like, yes, that's it. Is intentionally referencing historic ideas of womanhood or motherhood being domestic, or perhaps working against those ideas, or is it there's a different symbolism? I think that's a really interesting question. I'd love to hear what you think about that, and then we'll go to Zaina's questions about how these all interact with how we deal with our families.
Yeah, actually, I was very inspired. So one of my favorite series of all time is Carrie Mae Weems' Kitchen Table series. And the way, it became sort of a space for convening. And that's what I had in mind when I did it in the kitchen, because I had played around with the idea of like staging in my living room or my bedroom. But I was really drawn to the kitchen because of Carrie Mae Weems' work. And I wanted to like stage it, not in a similar way, but to reference that work, since it's some of my favorites. So yeah, that's what I had in mind. But I think it's important that we do acknowledge historic ideas of womanhood and mothering, because, a lot of Black mothers, we spend time in the kitchen. Yeah, it's a beautiful series, and each image like evokes a different emotion and communicates something different. Really, really brilliant work.
Tara,
Sorry, Jess. I do want to add that part of the question that from Juana is referencing the historic ideas of womanhood or motherhood being domestic, and whether that's true or not, Juana. If historically, there's a book out there by Stephanie Coons that's entitled "The Way We Never Were," and it references the 1950s sort of Leave It to Beaver, June Cleaver image of the mother. Whether or not, and we all have different opinions whether that's true or not. The show Anthropology of Motherhood is really centered on making, if you do choose as a mother to be domestic, then that choice is something to be valued. When we saw Tara's work, Amy, and you can talk about this too, and we saw Tara's work, there was sort of this domesticity going on there, but there was also an inherent power in that perceived domesticity. We don't know. We can only assume because it was in a kitchen, but we don't really know what that means. And somehow we sort of relate that domesticity to sort of motherhood in a less of power. And that's exactly what we're trying to challenge, motherhood and domesticity. That is the heart of families. That is the heart of becoming powerful people. So,
Well, I was going to say, Fran, absolutely. And that, like, I think
again, like the mix of references that is happening with Tara's work, because if Tara was talking about Hera as being, this particular figure. Hera exists on Mount Olympus, literally, like, if there's such thing as an ivory tower in the clouds, that's what Mount Olympus is. And so to have then that power that a figure like Hera embodies, then in the space, exactly what you're saying, Fran, it's not about denying domestic space or denying the importance of the kitchen, but revealing that importance. And that instead of a reframing of, like, women were shackled to, tied down to the stove, right? They couldn't, this was a forced role. Reframing that, the kitchen as this vital, like soul of the home, soul of community, and then mixing those references with, like, with mythology and the meanings that come from the empowerment that comes from that, I think is exactly sort of what you're talking about, Fran, that there is it's the empowerment of that space, that it's not just should be looked at as a burden on women, but reframing that all.
So that leads us to the next question that Zaina, and I would like Jessica to answer this, since you are the newest mother, I think, or maybe not, I'm wrong, but among you and Tara, you have the youngest daughter that says, she asked, I'm curious about how these beautiful conversations and pieces are being held within your own families. Are there ways you've learned to navigate those conversations, or do your strategies to communicate in common language translate, inform, and open dialogue with them? I mean, specifically talking about your mother-in-law and bringing the, kimono doll, the porcelain dolls in, right? That's sort of like that conversation about this going on.
Yeah, I hear you, friend, but I also want to, and Max has a lot to say. I also want to lift up, can you help me? This is like, we got 10 minutes left. Thank you. I also want to uplift, I'm sorry, she'll be fine. I also want to uplift, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're on the call, but Joanna, that J is a part of your name. Joanna is an incredibly prominent curator. She hails out of Detroit, but she is an independent curator. She's an amazing force within the industry and the sector. And Tara and I are both deeply honored that she's participating on this call tonight, especially that she asked such a very important question. So I just want to uplift her while she's in this space, and thank you for being here. Okay, and then in terms of this question, yeah, I mean, this is sticky, but I think that the only way that we move forward in these instances is if we bring light to these moments. It can't just be not acknowledging them. It can't be that we not acknowledge them. I think it's that we have to really find an opportunity to find ways to insert these conversations into our daily lives. I would be remiss if I let her talk to my child like that. I think the fear in me is about what happens when we don't have these kinds of talks with people, especially if they're in our families. Because what happens when I'm not there to defend my child? I think the point is, how can we prepare our children so that when we aren't present, they feel empowered to be able to have the space and the ability and the autonomy to protect and arm themselves, because I'm not always, this is to Tara's point of, our children might come through us, but they are not from us. And I think the work of being a mother is to be able to just provide her with the tools that she needs to be able to move and navigate through this world the best way that I can. I can't, you're right, Fran, I'm new and I'm trying to figure it out as best as I can, but I know that I won't always be able to be present to speak on her behalf or to protect her from everything. And so I also see examples of the way that my mother did this for me, and how her mother probably did it for her. It's like, how do you just enable them and arm them so that when they are in these instances, they know how to best navigate themselves. I hope that answers your question.
Zaina, did you want any follow-ups? And yes, I just wanted to say I'm kind of a fangirl of Juana Williams. So hi, I'm so glad you're here. So moving on, let's are there any other questions that we have? We are at 5:54, so we have about 6 more minutes. This is going really, really well. Jessica, can you tell us a little bit more about your piece that's, I know it's part of the Lioness Collective, but it's sort of initially it was supposed to be really congruent to the three of you. The Lioness Collective is a group of women artists who make work about motherhood. But as the exhibition sort of like moved from being at the festival to being virtual to being at Carlo, your piece kind of, I don't know, sort of like became its own entity. Can you tell us about that and how, how that process came about?
Yeah, man, Max was just nursing all the time. Like it felt like I couldn't do anything. I was just like stationed in a chair, and like just my body was not my own. And Olga, who's the founder and director of the Lioness Collective, which is a group of mother artists here in Pittsburgh, organized an exhibition in January. Max was born in November, so she was a real babe. And Max was making a series of drawings that were digital drawings that were created, using these kinds of devices. And I found myself sitting in that chair while I was nursing and, turning her digital drawings into soft sculptures that were then installed in a way that made them accessible to other young, small people. So I hung them very low to the ground, and they were larger than life. And people, these little creatures could touch them and play with them and activate these, what were originally Max's marks, that became things that they could touch and feel. And originally, as a part of this exhibition, I planned on doing the same, but then Max wasn't nearly as still. After, she's still nursing, but then she wanted to touch things, and I didn't have use of my hands in a way to sew in a way that I could before. In the beginning, it was such a relaxing process. She would be nursing on me, and I would just find myself doing this really repetitive pattern with my hands. And then that became no longer a thing. When you have like this 3 to 6 month old and they're pulling on everything, and then it became like almost a dangerous moment, right? Because I have this needle in my hand and she's reaching for everything. So this required the practice to change. And so I found ways to think about how I could continue to be in dialogue with my daughter in my practice, but let my practice evolve naturally. And so that ended up being, and again, like I just kept hearing myself say these things to her. Like just for example, today before this phone call, I was on the phone with Juana, and Max crawled up the stairs 3 times in a row. And I found myself saying, just go slower, go slow, go slow. And it's like these things that just, we say so quickly to our children, but there are so many instances in my life, in my career, in my practice, where I wish, like, I don't know, the Almighty spoke down to me and said, go slow. Like I heard it in that way to make myself like reflect and actually move in that, like, just slow down, get your balance. And so that's ultimately how this work came to be, Fran. And I anticipate to TJ's question earlier, how does motherhood continue to affect your work and your practice? I anticipate that as Max grows older and continues to change and evolve, that the practice will continue to do the same. And being artists, but also curators, to another point that was brought up in the chat, this mothering practice affects all of it. You know, like I can't not imagine thinking about working curatorially and not having this influence part of my practice. I can't imagine making something and it not influence my practice, you know? And so they have kind of become one and the same in my youth of being a mother. But I think it's a change that I'm really welcoming and really excited about. So thank you for that question.
I just want to let you know it also becomes one and the same when you're a grandmother. I am a grandmother now, and I find that my art practice has become one and the same as being a grandmother and a mother. So now there's 3 tiers of it, right? Artist, grandmother, mother. And it's an incredible feeling that I really feel that so not many of us are privileged to experience. I'm very grateful. But dude, does Jessica, well, we're at 6 o'clock. Can you guys believe this? Time just flew. Is it me or is it the wine? But all Tara, do you have any last words? I just want to say, and also you, Jessica, I'm going to give you, both of you, the floor to end, but I just want to say that thank you for being role models for our youth and other artists who are embarking on this journey of being mothers and artists. It's very difficult sometimes to find people that you can admire and look to for strength and for encouragement to meld the 2 practices together, because it's a difficult process. It's not easy what y'all are doing, and I'm very grateful to you. So thank you, everyone, on behalf of Anthropology of Motherhood.
Yes, thanks everyone. Just real quick, I just want to say, Jess, I am sitting in your chair, and it's very. And when you talked about this like space of respite, it reminded me of like, yeah, because I've got 2 little ones and, you know, work. And at one point I recall being relieved when I got to go to the dentist, just because I could just sit and it could be quiet. I mean, that it's just funny, like that, like how you know, again, how experiences and places that are normally not thought of as restful can be reframed that way in our everyday, especially as you care for little ones. But thank you so much, Jess. Thank you so much, Tara.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Fran, for making this space for us. Thank you guys all for participating on this call. Thank you for dealing with the hotepery. We appreciate all y'all sitting here and spending your Friday, you know, the jump of your Friday night with us. Tara, do you remember it was like literally March, it was my birthday. I think it was March 11th, like before quarantine, like this was the beginning of quarantine. We had our final drink together.
Yeah, that was the last time I think I had even been out.
Same. So it's nice
I
to
remember because I was at Umami first.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Thank you for having a drink with me tonight in our computers. Thank you guys for all joining us. It's lovely to be in community with you. Tara, do you got a 10 and a 5 and I got a 13 months. So can you give me some advice before we jump off?
I think you're already doing amazing. She's growing up in a house with so much love, and she is an amazing mama.
I love you.
I love you more.
Not more, the same.
All right, I love you the same.
All right, thanks, fam. Thanks for being here tonight. There's more Anthropology of Motherhood programming. In January, Tara and I are going to speak with Muffy Mendoza about educating our children in a white supremacist capitalist world. And we hope that you all will join us for that talk. It's the 15th of January at 4:30. But if you follow Anthropology, you'll be able to Anthropology of Motherhood on Instagram, or at Miss Tara Faye or at Jessie Plain, you will find more information about it. So I hope to see you guys. Thank you, Sarah. I hope to see you guys all there on the next chat as well.
Holding you up. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Love you, Tara.
Love you.